This Andre Puyans dry fly is called the loopwing macaw Adams. I'm tying it on a number 14 dry fly hook with gray thread. I'm using the recipe in Mike Valla's book, Founding Flies, mostly. Also, the photograph of this fly tied by Andre Puyans. I'll get my thread at about the 1/3 mark. The wing is a loop wing made from teal, so I have taken 6 barbs off of a teal flank feather. I'm going to tie it in by the tips. Challenge with this fly is to keep this wing standing upright and not bending over. Get the tips wrapped in. Use a pointy object. In this case I use a pick, but a bodkin will work. Create the loop. Try to keep those barbs oriented together. Create that loop. And I want the loop to end up about the length of the shank of the hook. I'll wrap up over those, and this is where it wants to lay down instead of stand up. Wrap back down over the butt ends and tips. Bring my thread back up close, and then I can wrap in front. And I want to make sure that I'm leaving plenty of room in front for hackle and head. Now, so far I think we're doing okay with getting that to stand up. I will go ahead and clip out the tips and the butt ends. Then I'll take my pick and separate 3 and 3. So far that's working okay. It's a little bit twisted. I think that's part of the nature of this style of wing, unique to Andre Puyans. Just put a gentle X-wrap through it to keep them separated. I don't want them to lay down like I would a spent spinner, but I want them to be slightly separated. I'll go ahead and bring my thread back behind and wrap back to the back of the hook. Can put, this is another pointed object that I just try to get those wings to line up properly. Because it is an Adams, I'm going to use grizzly hackle barbs and brown hackle barbs for the tail. Just a few of each. Get those lined up together. I want my tail to be about the length of the shank of the hook. Holding them forward on the shank will help to keep them from rolling over the backside. And then I can take my thread underneath once and help them to stay standing up at the bend. I did get one here that is kind of long. I'll just clip out all the butt ends. So the brown and grizzly, because it is 8 atoms, that's the characteristics of the atoms is the brown and grizzly tail and the brown and grizzly front hackle, although I think that originally the tail was tied with something else. Then it is a loop wing macaw. The macaw tail feather is blue on one side and yellow on the other side. So I have 3 of those barbs from that tail. I'm going to clip off the very tip because it's tender and tends to break. And then I'll wrap over the tip ends, and I'm tying it in by the tip ends so that I get a proper, I've got some tail barbs in there, so that I get a proper taper, because the feather gets heavier as it works its way towards the butt end of the feather. So tying it in by the tip end then will help with the tapering. And I am wrapping it with the blue side out, but the yellow will kind of show through underneath and give a very unique kind of segmentation. I find it difficult to grab multiple barbs with the hackle plier, but then I struggle with not letting go. I just split up my wings of those barbs because of their length. And I don't have to go all the way up to the front because I am going to be putting hackle behind and in front of the wing in dry fly fashion. Holding it in place with my finger against the shank helps to hold it, I think, and then I can wrap up over that body material with 3 wraps, pull back on those body barbs, wrap underneath of them or in front of them, and then I can reach in and carefully, making sure that I don't nip the wings, clip that out. Then in typical Adams fashion, I'm going to tie in a brown hackle feather and a grizzly hackle feather, and I'm going to tie them in one forward and one backward, or one shiny side out, one shiny side in, so it doesn't really matter. It does affect the way the barbs lay down. So giving that feather a crew cut gives the thread something to grab onto. And the direction of the feather tied in will affect the way the barbs stand. So you can see that there is kind of a concave convex to the feather, a dull side and a shiny side. So if you tie them in with the shiny side out or up, then those barbs will bend towards the bend of the hook. If you tie them in with the dull side out or up, then the barbs will bend forward towards the eye of the hook. And generally, with what has become the practice for dry flies, is to do the front leaning barbs, because the barbs are, yes, imitating legs on whatever insect it is that is being imitated, mayflies generally, with this kind of a fly, but also it is helping that dry fly to float. So having the barbs leaning forward helps with that floating. So just catch that in, and then I can bring my thread up in front. These are fairly long feathers, so I'll go ahead and just grab the feathers to wrap them, and I'm going to wrap them individually, although they could be wrapped together as well. A couple in front, or a couple behind and a couple in front. Keep the wings up. And I want my hackle to be 1 to 1.5 length the gape of the hook. So then I can just wrap over the top of that grizzly hackle to hold it in place. I'll just leave that and go back and grab the brown and do a couple wraps behind, and then come forward and do a couple wraps in front as well. The more wraps I can get in, the more it's going to float when it's fished. And go ahead and just snake my thread through without knocking down the hackle barbs. Then I'm going to just pick those up, take a pen or half hitch tool and just push back on those barbs just to kind of get them used to going backwards. I'll take and put a single half hitch up over the eye of the hook underneath of those barbs, a single and then another single. And that will be enough to hold those barbs in, on, push the other barbs away from the eye, and I can reach in carefully and just clip out those 2 feathers. If I clip a few hackle barbs in the process, it's not a huge problem. Keep those wings separated a little bit. Then I'll take and do 2 double half hitches. So I'm wrapping my thread around my half hitch tool twice. I'm just pulling it off the tool. That will create the head of the fly behind the eye. I want to be sure I've seat that knot. Do 2 of those. That would be similar to doing 2 double wrap whip finishes, but I find that using a half hitch tool gives me a cleaner eye, and then I'm just pushing my scissors against the thread to break it out, to cut it out. I'm going to put a drop of diluted goop on that head. That will keep that knot from coming undone. And then to make sure that the eye is clean, having put all that goop out there, I will push the tip of a hackle feather through the eye of the hook and make sure that it is clean and tip it ready.